Welcome to the Predictive Playbook. This is the PGA show with David Bearman. Arguably, I would challenge anybody to say that he is not the absolute best PGA professional sports bettor on the planet. He not only was 13 out of 15 weeks going into the Open last week, he pretty much ran the slate in the Open, and now it's 14 out of 16 shows. So if there's a guy that I can say you should tail with absolute 100% confidence, this is the man. So welcome to the show, David. I'm anxious for you to tell everybody how your results went.
Thanks, John. Yeah, it was a good Open. It could have been better. I only say that because I had, as you know, as I gave it out in the show and in the column, I had Louis O and I had Spieth as futures to win. I had Louis at 35-1 and Spieth at 20-1, and the two of them obviously did well. I had them at top tens as well, so they paid off. And having Louis and or Spieth would have paid, but it did guarantee a winning weekend with getting to hedge a little bit on Morikawa. Obviously, the results could have been more profitable had Louis held on or Spieth coming from behind and winning at 20-1, but it was a profitable weekend. I wound up hitting a whole bunch of top 10s and top 20s as well. There was some disappointments in there. Patrick Cantlay didn't do well, which speaks to why I was hesitant to pick him to begin with, because he only had 2 prior Open appearances, and I don't like taking guys in that position, but the 33-1 I thought was too good value to pass up. And then we had some unfortunate stuff with Stuart Sink and Brandon Grace, who each got the dreaded snowman on the back 9 on Friday and wound up missing the cut because of it, costing us chances at top 20 or more. And DFS wise, still was able to cash with having 4 out of 6 make the cut. Those two were disappointing that they just missed the cut and threw up snowmans on the 3rd and 4th to last hole that cost us what potentially could have been a record-setting weekend. But we will take the cash. It's not always in the money, but we will take what we got this weekend. And hats off to Colin Morikawa. You know, you always look at majors and big tournaments and say, did so-and-so win or did so-and-so lose? Unequivocally, Louis took the bull by its horns and knocked it out of the park. I mean, he was stellar. From start to finish. I tweeted it mid-round on Sunday when I realized it was pretty much over. If Louis Oosthuizen is going to lead, not Louis, if Colin Morikawa is going to lead the field in putting, don't bother. No one's beating him. That's his weak spot. And if he's going to lead the field in putting, no one's going to beat him. And what he did on Sunday was nothing short of spectacular. He earned it. He took it from Louis, took it from Jordan, and others were up there. But proud of the winning week, and now we move on to you don't like to call it a letdown, but post-major is always a letdown. Not the world's greatest field, but there is a PGA Tour event going on in Minneapolis this week.
Yeah, and it's in Blaine, Minnesota, I guess is officially the area. So these guys are playing over across the pond, now have to fly back. I know there's been a history with Dustin Johnson sometimes just feeling not recovered enough to even play in this event. But so far he is in the event and he's the favorite. And I wanted to mention this too. As you know, Dave, and I love doing in-game betting in the NBA. And now I've discovered that you can also take advantage of that in the PGA Tour. And the best example was getting Jon Rahm after he started out so poorly on the 7th hole of a 72-hole tournament at 35-1. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it didn't work out quite for me, but when you see Dustin Johnson like this, you don't necessarily, if you like him to win, you don't have to necessarily bet him now. You can wait and probably get better odds at some point during that first round.
And getting odds like that will enable you to do other things. And the example I used, very similar, was PGA Championship, ultimately won by Phil. Mm-hmm. There was a time on Friday where Koepka, who everybody liked, bogeyed a hole early on Friday, and he wound up getting like 8 or 9 shots back, and I was able to get him at an absurd 45-1. And he went on a huge birdie run right afterwards, and next thing you know, he enters Sunday 1 shot back of Phil, which you got a 45-1 shot on one side. It's very easy to go ahead and bet the other side. So at that point, you bet on Phil and you guarantee yourself a profit because you live bet a guy at 45-1 who ended up going on a run that we all expected out of Koepka and wound up being in second place going into Sunday. So ultimately, you do want to hit on the lottery tickets, as we call them, the 35-1 on Louis, the 20-1 on Spieth. But if you take them and you position yourself so that entering a Saturday or Sunday, you got the board covered. If you bet on Colin, any which way, shape, or form, I haven't put it on Twitter, I was going to win money one way, shape, or form. It was just Morikawa winning was the third of the three scenarios, but that's because I didn't take them, pre-flop. So.
Yeah, so it's all good. I love it. And needless to say, I'm anxious to hear who you like this week. I know one of the surprises I saw in your article on ESPN.com/chalk and insider is the next / but on that page, you start out with Tony Finau. And that was, I kind of went, wow, that's interesting because you usually don't play him.
I don't, and you would think someone stole my computer because I've said on this show and I've said on other shows that I'm just not taking Tony Finau until he wins an event. And I've profited very well with him taking top 10s and top 20s because he does that every week. But taking him to win seems to be a fool's errand because he doesn't win. He hasn't won since 2016. That being said, if you're going to pick a spot for Tony Finau to get his second ever PGA Tour win and break the 5-year drought and get the monkey off his back, you got to look at a course that's a bomber's paradise like this one. It's a birdie fest. The field is not strong, so why not Finau? You're not getting the greatest odds in the world at 14 to 16 to 1 because the field isn't strong. But you look at Tony's game, he's tied for 10th in tee to green, 25th overall. Where does he fall off? Accuracy. Just like Spieth and others, 183rd on tour in accuracy off the tee. You can get away with it here. The rough is not thick. The greens aren't tough. So if he can get out there and have some good iron play and hit some greens and make some putts, this is an event that 5 years from now, you'd be like, yeah, Tony Finau won a subpar field event in Minnesota. He has 39 top 10s since his last win, which is the 5th most on tour and the most of anybody who hasn't had a win since 2016. I don't love taking Finau because he's always up for one bad round a weekend that usually costs you. And I've played the fade Finau game over time. But I do think that this course fits really well for him. He was T3rd last year, John, and he had a share to lead on Sunday before he did his fade Finau and didn't hit a birdie the whole back 9, which cost him a chance at you can't go the back 9 without burying holes and try to win this event when the winners are winning it at 19 and 20 under par. But if Finau gets it out there and hits some putts, this could be it for him. And so I'm going to, lack of better options, I'm going to go ahead and spend some money. I'd rather take him here than take him an event with a stacked player field.
Yeah, and I think based on what you said, we're getting a good price for him too because he hasn't done anything. I didn't realize it was 5 years since he won. That's
2016 Puerto Rico B Field event when all the other guys were I believe we're at a WGC event.
Wow, that is shocking.
Right,
but you're obviously getting him at a really good price, I think, because of that.
Yep.
And who else is on your radar that is priced accordingly?
You're gonna really think someone stole my computer because I play the fade Finau game and I love to fade Sergio game every single weekend, picking spots against Sergio. I have him too. Again, not a tough field. You're getting a really good price on Sergio at 35-1. When you think about who's in this field, you can get him at 3-1 to be in the top 10. He's had back-to-back T20s at the majors. His last 2 PGA events were the Open Championship and the U.S. Open, T19 in both. If you look at the metrics, he's 18th tee to green. He's 3rd off the tee, which I think is going to be an important metric here because it's such a long course with 30 water hazards, 5 sharp dog legs, and over 70 bunkers. You really have to be good at controlling the ball off the tee. I think that's what Sergio does really well. 16th in distance on tour, but pretty much top 5 with who's in the field. And he hits the greens at 15th best in all of golf, which you really need to do to get the birdies here. If it's a birdie fest course, you got to be on the greens to get those birdies. So I think that'll be key here. Recent form, Sergio's been hot and cold. He has 4 straight T20s worldwide after missing the previous 4 cuts, which included the Masters and the PGA. And, John, really what I like about Sergio in this event is a different type of narrative because you can always concentrate on metrics, recent form, form on this course, which is the three things that you and I always talk about. This event's only been here 2 years. There's not a lot of data when it comes to the course. So I was looking for another narrative to take. Who has something to play for? Sergio should be a captain's pick by Patty Harrington to make the Ryder Cup team, but it's not a lock. And why leave it to chance? Why leave it to Patty to make your captain's pick? Go earn your way onto the team, and Sergio can do that with a win and a couple other good finishes. So I'm looking at the Ryder Cup narrative with him and a few other players we'll get to in a minute. But Sergio's one of those guys that when the time is right, he's going to push it a little bit to get on that team. He's also getting 35-1 odds at a course that fits his game well. And if he stays out of trouble with the water, I think Sergio could be somebody that is in contention this week, despite the fact that I usually fade him and fade Finau. But you got to pick someone, right?
Yeah, and he's a great ball striker. That's never been the issue. He takes one hell of a divot, too. I don't know how in the world he avoids elbow injuries coming down that steep, but it works. And it works real well. And he arguably is the best player on the planet for the Ryder Cup with his history of doing so extraordinarily well. So that your point is very, very good. And I think that he does have a lot to play for, including the FedEx Cup points.
Yep.
And making sure that he's well entrenched into that thing too.
Yep. And when looking at other factors to play for in an event like this, you look at a guy like Cameron Tringali, whose metrics are not going to blow you out of the water. He's solid, top 40, top 50 in most of the metrics that you need here. Not going to blow you away. T26 at the Open last week, T14 the week before at Detroit. Rocket Mortgage was another birdie type track. When I went deeper into Cameron Tringali, because I was looking at him like, well, the metrics aren't great. He did have 2 top 30 finishes at this event the last 2 years. What sold me on him are 2 things that I don't always handicap, but we talk about how the field isn't a great field. Tringali has 4 top 10s this year, all at what you would consider weaker type fields. The RSM Classic, Pebble Beach Pro-Am, the Valero Open, and the Valspar. Not the top fields in the world. He has top 10s in all 4 of them. And this is a TPC course, TPC Twin Cities. How has this guy done on previous comparable TPC courses? T19 at Summerlin in Vegas, T17 at Scottsdale, T9 at San Antonio at the Valero Open. He did miss the cut at Sawgrass and River Highlands. Throw those out there. He was the runner-up at TPC Louisiana 2 years ago and at Summerlin 3 years ago. And what was his best finish last year? T3 right here at TPC Twin Cities. So going a little bit deeper, which sometimes you need to do when the field is what it is and the course is only 2 years of history, Cameron Tringali, who can get upwards of 35-1, plays well versus B-type fields and plays well on TPC-style courses, which tend to be birdie fests like they were in Summerlin, like they were at TPC River Highlands. And you got another one here where if you comp it out to Rocket Mortgage, you comp it out to Summerlin, a lot of birdies, need some good iron play. And Tringali, while not the best player on the planet, has good enough stuff to get it done here.
Yeah, I like that pick too. And another one I think is flying on your radar is one that we haven't talked about on any of the shows, but he is I would call him a cut master. And it's Charles Howell III. For most of his career, it just seemed like he would play a tremendous amount of tournaments and play to make the cut.
He does, and you do need that when you're trying to fill out your DFS lineup. I actually took him last year at 80-1 in this spot, and he finished third 3 shots back, so I actually had an 80-1 shot live on Sunday. He's played here well. Chucky's played here in contention both times at this course, dropped off in 2019 with a final round 71. All 8 of his rounds have been par or better. The guy has been a cut machine. I'm not taking him any higher in the top 20 because he hasn't done much better than that this year with only 1 top 10 this season. Hasn't finished higher than T18 since April. But success on this course, success at making the cut, 3-1 payout at being a top 20. He is somebody who has played well here before, and it's the type of guy that you could see playing well in this type of field.
It's great stuff. And another guy that really has me fascinated and intrigued is a guy from Argentina who actually shot a 64 in the second round of the Open. That Open dies, and that's Emiliano Grillo. And I can see why you like him quite a bit for this event too. In a top 20 at plus 140 is pretty good. What else can you tell me that's good about this guy?
I mean, he's the ultimate, Grillo's the ultimate boomer bust type play. This is a guy, unlike Howell, who is a cut machine. Grillo's the type of guy who, he has 11 top 25s on tour, but he also has 8 missed cuts. So he's either boom or bust. He might be that one MC that you don't want on your DFS lineup, but he also could be T3 like he was last year. The guy has a great iron play, which is made for this course. He's weakness is putting, but he was one of the top putters last week at the Open Championship to wind up finishing T12 at the Open at St. George's. He's 33rd off the tee, which is what I was talking about with Sergio. He gets it done off the tee in terms of accuracy and or distance. And he's 5th in hitting greens, which we had also talked about with Sergio, is at this course, you need to be able to hit greens to score. This is not the course where scrambling helps you, because scrambling just gets you back to par, and you don't want pars at this course. You know, we talked about scrambling last week, which is why I liked Louis and why I liked Spieth, because scrambling at the British to be able to get those pars is key, which they all did well. But on a birdie track like this one, scrambling means you're falling behind, so you really want to hit the greens, score and score well, and Grillo can do that. You know, he is 5th on tour in greens and regulation. He's a guy that's among the leaders in top 25s, but beware, he also can miss the cut if he doesn't play well. And you know, you look at what he did just last week at the Open. He had a 70, 64, 72, 68, and that's Grillo in a nutshell.
The yo-yo, up and down, up and down. Another guy that's seems to be improving each week is Robert McIntyre. Cracked the top 50 in the world golf ratings coming into this week, and he played very, very well, and he's a left-handed player. Tell me more about this guy.
This is a guy where I look at the other narratives as well, besides the fact that he finished T8 at the Open, which with a great weekend, a 65-67 weekend, it got him into this event, and he's actually closing in on the non-PGA Tour member special temporary membership card. He can get his tour card by playing his way in. So that's a lot to play for. You know, being a non-member, being from Europe, he can actually get his tour card by finishing well for a special exemption. And just like Sergio, outside looking in on the Ryder Cup, doesn't have the same cachet as Sergio does. So Sergio's his backup plan is to get a captain's pick out of Harrington. McIntyre's probably not going to get one, so he's probably going to have to play his way in. He's currently 9th in the standings, and there's 2 different parts of the standings that are way too complicated to get into. But bottom line is McIntyre can play his way onto the team. He can play his way into a tour card, which is important. And he's done well in big spots. T12 at the Masters, made the final 16 in match play, top 10 at the Open, T18 at the Scottish, playing very, very well, and has those 2 things to play for this week. And I'm looking forward to seeing how he does.
Excellent stuff, David. And with the time we have remaining, is there any other players or matchups you want to mention?
I haven't looked at the matchups yet. I was planning to do that this afternoon, but Johnny Vegas and Luke List were 2 guys that were on my list that I just didn't write up because for one way or another, they scared me off a little bit, but I'm probably going to play them in a couple of DFS lineups. They were guys that I was zoning in on to play here. I don't like the way Vegas has been playing recently, and Luke is a little bit short off the tee, but we'll see how they do. They're guys that I am considering putting in lineups.
And lastly, before I let you go, what do you think about Oosthuizen this week? Is it just too much to even consider playing him?
I actually looked into it. He's obviously had enough letdowns in his career that I actually looked into all of his runner-up finishes at the majors and the T3s at the majors. And I looked for about an hour to see if there was a pattern of how Louis does after a letdown like this. And unfortunately, there wasn't a pattern either way. You know, after he did not play after the U.S. Open until the British, so he did play well, but he took 3 weeks off. After his PGA win or PGA runner-up finish, he did finish in the top 20 the next week where he played. But then last year I looked at his U.S. Open finish, and he took 2 weeks off. So there was no real pattern. I'm avoiding him only because you do have that letdown plus the flight back to the States. But I understand why people would want to play him because he is one of, if not the best player in the field this week. I mean, you look at the field, you have DJ and you have Louis. So if you want a guy who you know can win, it's not the worst case scenario. But he also hasn't won on the PGA Tour in America.
It's unbelievable.
He's only won it at the Open in 2010. There's obviously something missing there, and this is probably not the spot that I would want to take him. But it's hard for me to argue for those who look at the rest of the field and say, he's the best in the field, why not? So there's that. But there was no pattern, if that's what you were looking for.
Yeah, I'm just curious to see how it is. You know, it's we look at those kind of things in the NFL too. Teams that were favored and lose, and you know they do tend to fall flat. But you know, golf and Louis, and especially his mental approach, you know, he really doesn't show anything.
Right.
He truly plays in the moment and just hasn't gotten it done. I mean, as amazing as that is, that he's never won on North American soil, it's just it's mind blowing. It truly is mind blowing. Well, with the remaining minute here, I want you to definitely tell the viewers what's going on over ESPN and that great show, The Daily Wager, at 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday, and anything else you want to share.
ESPN Chalk is where this column that we just talked about is on. We'll have our UFC picks tomorrow, and we're looking to have some Olympic preview Friday or Saturday, so looking forward to putting that out there. Catch me on Twitter at DBearmanESPN, and make sure you tune into Daily Wager at 6 o'clock on ESPN too.
Awesome, David. I really appreciate your time today. And on behalf of David Bearman, ESPN, myself, WagerTalk.com, and the Predictive Playbook, may all the wins be yours.